after you decided to make this focus and focus in on this, it sounds like it was the right time for you to do this, and you were ready to do it. So it wasn't so painful after all. And you went through a number of bands. You were very serious about trying to figure out how to do this. And after about a year and a half, you were introduced to Luke Halpin, and he made a very interesting proposition to you. And I'd like you to talk about it.
Wow, I wonder where you found all this information. You like seriously did your research. Um, did you watch all my videos where I tell all my stories? Um, yeah. Well, in fairness, the transition from being, full-time actor, circus, blah, 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 to being full-time musician, I mean, there was certainly, I don't want to blow it off like it was, oh, easy peasy. The reason I stopped doing the movie business was because I'd had a very, very disillusioning experience, which really left me crispy. So it was almost like survival to do something different but artistic. Music became my path of healing, really. Um, but yes, I was determined. And yeah, I started a band. Well, I started recording. Well, first I needed to figure out how to fiddle rather than play the violin,
Oh,
because I was classically trained, and every time I would try to play something that sounded like fiddling, it ended up sounding like klezmer, because that's what happens when classical people try to play fiddle music and they don't know what they're doing. Um, so I found a guy, Richard Green is his name, and he actually was rather a famous fiddler. He used to play with um, Sea Train was his band. I don't know if you remember that.
no.
I vaguely remember that band. Anyway, he Grammy-winning fiddler. Anyway, he had started as a classical violinist as well, so he was the perfect guy to help me make that transition. Started working with him, started recording my first record, writing all these songs. In the meantime, I was starting to work with local musicians and play bars and libraries and bookstores and whatever I could get into to play. And at a certain point, a friend of mine who was also a songwriter and played around town, he came to a gig and he said, Stephanie, you got to get better musicians. You got to get people who are going to learn your songs. Your songs are cool. And that was kind of a nice wake up call, because I think I was so focused on just not sucking for myself that I wasn't really aware of the fact that the guys around me kind of a train wreck, because they
Yeah.
just, you know, they just hadn't really learned my songs, and my songs weren't like every song on the radio that they were used to.
Right.
So I started looking around for new players, and that's when I met Luke. And Luke showed up. We had a specific gig. We were going to play the Sedona Bluegrass Festival, and I hired him like 2 months out. And he was working. I had a bass player and a guitar player who was a buddy of his at the time, and that this was the four-piece that was going to go to the Bluegrass Festival. And so Luke started playing with me, and we got back from the festival and we were playing a gig, and he had a moment where after a gig he came up to me and he said, I'm having a great idea, but I've been drinking. So I don't know if it's a great idea. I'll call you tomorrow and let you know.
Yeah.
So the next day I called him. I was like, is it still a great idea? And he came over and he proposed that he and I should get together and just rehearse the songs and just get really good at the songs. 5 days a week, 3 hours a day, rehearse. Um, so we started doing that, and he proposed, let's do it for a month and see if there's potential here, see if it's any good. Well, 1 month turned into 3 months, which turned into, hey, he's learned all the songs on the guitar now. He was my mandolin player originally.
Yeah.
We've worked out all these vocal harmonies, like, let's just perform as a duo. So that was the birth of what became Bettman and Halpin. It actually, we went through a few phases with our names, but and we started touring, and that was 16 years ago. And 7 full-length CDs ago.
Yeah. That's amazing. Talk
Yeah.
about the nature of your partnership.
Well, we started working together. I hired him, and by that time, when I was meeting him, I had learned enough from having worked with various sidemen that getting along with the person is as important as can they play their instrument. So when he showed up, our audition was let's just hang out in the living room and like share songs and chat, which we did for, I think we talked for like 3 hours. The first time he came over and we just shared music and he'd written some songs and I shared the stuff that I was working on. And he was just super talented and just like a great hang. He was a great, just, he was easy to hang out with. He was interested. So that's where it started. And then, when he made the proposition and we were getting together every day, every weekday for 3 hours, well, that would turn into 4 or 5 hours. I'd usually make him dinner, feed him in some way. We'd hang out and talk after we'd been practicing and, figuring out harmonies for 3 hours or more. And so we just got to be really good friends. And after about a year of working together, it, developed into a romance. And so then it was kind of ideal. We were touring with our sweeties. It was also a lot of like everything, like
Yeah.
everything from one person. But Luke and I are incredibly compatible, so it worked really well for a long time. We actually did break up almost 5 years ago now. Just like in 2019, right before the world shut down, we decided that we wanted to transition back into, being friends and being bandmates and musical collaborators and not try to be everything for each other anymore. And we just started like, we didn't know if it was going to last. We didn't know how it was going to go. So we hadn't told anybody. And then the world shut down and we were quarantined in the same house.
Oh,
so,
wow.
so that was good, actually. It was actually a real gift to, because we are good friends and we remained good friends. And it gave us time to just kind of like talk through a lot of stuff and, do our own individual work and um, get stronger as individuals before he fully separated and he moved off to various apartments. And yeah, so does that answer the question? Did I
Well,
more than answer the question?
well, not more than. It was interesting, but I was also interested in the musical nature of the partnership,
Hmm.
how you
Well,
work
it's
together.
been evolution. We moved to Denver together after working together and touring together for a couple of years out of Los Angeles. And when we moved to Denver, we built a studio in the basement. And so our fourth record, which is called Diamond, was the first time that we produced a CD, just the two of us. So we'd always worked with third-party producers up to that point. And so that was a learning curve. That was a real learning curve. I guess we did a live CD, just the two of us together, but it was a less, it was like, well, this is the footage that we have. This is the recording that we have. Let's just make it sound as good as we can. But when we started doing a whole new project, um, from scratch, there was definitely figuring out how to work together, the power structure of working together. I am I'm difficult.
Well, shall
I'm
we
one of
say
those.
you are powerful? Can we put it that way?
Okay,
You are
let's say
powerful.
I'm powerful. I'm powerful. I know what I want. I know what I hear. I'm stubborn. So when I hear something and I know what I want it to be, I'm not very flexible. I'm like, okay, I'll entertain your idea until I tell you that it's wrong, and then let's do it my way. So that was a learning curve, for sure. And plus, we were a couple, so the power dynamics of that
Right.
added in. But honestly, it was a huge evolution, that fourth record. Not only, I mean, Luke learned so much about engineering, about mixing, um, all the stuff that goes into the sort of technical part of recording a record. And we learned how to work together. And we were working with these kids in crisis. I wrote all these songs that were inspired from that work we were doing. And I'm so proud of that record. Honestly, I love that record. I think it is such a beautiful record. To this day, it's like one of my favorites. So yeah, he basically, what he has since told me is, I mean, we learned how to like, okay, if it's my song and I wrote it, then I have final veto. If it's your song and you wrote it, then you have final veto. Like we learned those sorts of things. We learned how to, get frustrated, but not completely blow our tops. Like, we dialed that sort of thing in. But in retrospect, he told me that what he did that made that record so successful working together, he decided to just totally be of service and help me create my vision.
Uh,
And that was tremendous.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's on him for being the bigger person, I suppose, or being able to set his own creative ego aside and say, all right, let's just serve your vision.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it could have gone either way. In this case, it went your way, and that worked. It certainly could have been the other way around. And yeah, I mean, the point is that you both made the project happen, and he understood that it was only going to happen in this instance if he served.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Have you had that kind of an opportunity also to serve? Is that part of your evolution?
no. Well,
Thank
for
you
one,
so much for being honest. What a wonderful answer. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.
well, since, since I'm more often than not, I am the songwriter. Um, 90, probably 95% of the time, at least in working with Luke. And now I'm doing solo things. So it's all me.
Yeah.
Um, plus I don't engineer. Like I don't have the skills that he has. I don't have the support skills. I mean, I can sit on, and I do, like if he was writing a song or working on a song and he would bring it to me, then I can totally be like, okay, let's, how do we make this a better song? Here's some ideas. And then in that context, I have been the support person.
Okay.
But because I don't play a corded instrument, I play the fiddle. Um, like my biggest support is as a songwriter or as a producer, coming in with ideas, coming in with, my own creative thoughts about how to make something better,
Mhm.
um, which is actually what I'm good at. So, yeah, I mean, Luke has talked for years about doing a solo album himself. We'll see if he does. If he does, I'll be happy to like be that support person. But I won't be like, I would have to do it the way I do it, which is to say, well, what about that line? Can that line be something better? Or what about if you put, these are the kinds of things I say to him. Well, what if you start with the chorus and then you put that verse over there? Or what if you, like, those are the sorts of things I say, or this, this line, what would be better? Or honing in the story, or what are you actually saying in this song? Things like that.
Yeah.